Hi, I'm Mart, and you are watching Mart's Movies Review here on yourmedia.tv. Wherever you are, we're here. Today, I'm going to talk about the movies of Steven Spielberg. I'm going to talk about his movies Duel, Jaws, and finally, E.T. So the first movie I'm going to talk about today is Steven Spielberg's film Duel, which was made in 1971. Before that, he was a TV director. He directed episodes of Columbo. He made an episode, a very famous episode with Joan Crawford. And then he met Sid Sheinberg, who's at Universal Pictures and Universal TV. And he went and he took a story from Richard Matheson, the short story writer, Twilight Zone, and other novels. And he took his script and they got it financed through Universal Pictures. It was supposed to go out as a TV movie. And later on, it got a theatrical exhibition around the world, especially around Europe. And it's a suspense story, kind of like an Alfred Hitchcock suspense story about Dennis Weaver, who's basically a salesman, a businessman on a road trip. And it's a cat and mouse story about he's been chased by this unseen trucker, and the suspense that goes out through the movie is builds throughout the film, as you'd see in a Alfred Hitchcock movie. Like the suspense movies, basically they build up the suspense throughout the film. Where a thriller, something happens, and then it's a kind of a detective story investigating the crime or future crimes to come. So he's spending his time going from place to place. He calls his wife on the phone as well, and he first meets the trucker. He passes him out, and the trucker beeps at him, and he thinks it's just a guy beeping. And then it's in a cat and mouse kind of game. Then going through the Mojave Desert, the truck passes him out again, and kind of meets him in the dust. And then he's getting concerned. Then there's the trucker is ahead of him, and he kind of waves him on to go ahead of him, and he's waving him on to go into a straight on head on to another car. So he's getting concerned about the truck driver. Then his intentions towards him. It's kind of a road rage incident. Then one of the early kind of road rage kind of films that was kind of new and in vogue at the time. And basically, a lot of the film is based on Weaver's character, man in the movie, who's basically kind of maybe the newfound 1970s culture and the middle-aged man in 1970s America. And what happened is then there's lots of little incidents along the way. I mean, he goes into a cafe and a load of truckers inside, and the truck is parked outside, and he still doesn't know who the trucker is. He's been following them, kind of terrorizing them on the road. And there's little incidents as well where the truck is pushing his car ahead, and there's a school bus, and it's just a really made story, a one-man story of survival thriller, suspense story, if you will. And it's Spielberg's like debut film. That's one of my favorite films. It'd be in my top 10 films, along with Hitchcock's To Catch a Thief, The 39 Steps. It's really well made, wrought, and the suspense just continues for an hour and a half movie. It's like kind of red car he drives as well, and it's really, really well made, and you should watch it and experience the suspense yourself. I mean, after Duel, I mean, he made a movie with Goldie Hawn in the Sugarland Express, but the next movie he made after that then was based on a Peter Benchley novel called Jaws. And they made the film Jaws, which is a famous thriller nowadays, and it kind of changed world cinema because it kind of became the kind of first real blockbuster film. There had been some before that, Earthquake and The Tower of Inferno, but this really kind of set it on its path towards Star Wars. And what he did was he made the film in Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts, and he went off, and they were trying to get a mechanical shark and make it work, and it wasn't working. And so they kind of used it sparingly throughout the film. And he had the John Williams score that did the kind of sound effect score running through the film when there was ever the shark appearing. And I have to get this right now. There's kind of three main actors in the film. They all start with R. Roy Schreider. You got Richard Dreyfuss, There's Hooper, and you got Robert Shaw as a fisherman as well. And basically, they're all called in. Schreider is the captain, the chief, police chief. You got Hooper, who's the marine archaeologist, the marine. He's archaeologist played by Richard Dreyfuss. And then you got the fisherman, who kind of the shark fisherman, played by Robert Shaw. And a lot of there's one or two incidents happen, and then they get a tiger shark, and then I think it's the tiger shark who was after attacking the girl at the start of the film. And then there's a boy gets attacked as well, and they kind of open up the tiger shark. Then they find out there's no bones or anything inside. So the mayor of the town, it's July 4th coming up, and there's a lot of summer and summer season, and they don't want to close the beach, so he wants to keep it open. And after one or two attacks, then basically the police chief Schreider tells the mayor that, look, we have to go out on the boat, go out with this experienced shark fisherman played by Robert Shaw, and try to get this shark. Like, it seems to be a 25-foot shark when they start seeing it. And what they're trying to do is then they put some some kind of tanks, yellow tanks they have, and they want to kind of harpoon the shark and track it with the yellow tanks going along the shore, so they can see it when it's approaching. And they all have different personalities. Sometimes they get on, sometimes they don't. Hooper is kind of seen with plastic cups, styrofoam, where it's kind of seen as a jock thing. Like, who think Hooper, he crushes the plastic cup like a jock would do with beer. You know what I mean? Just kind of a take on that, a kind of a satirical take on the crushing the beer can in your hand or beneath your foot. And they get out in the water anyway, and they try all different types of ways to get the shark, and they're feeding it, and Hooper goes down in a cage and tries to harpoon it. He has something on the harpoon, some kind of drug to try and drug it and kill it. That fails. He's stuck down below then, and Robert Shaw just really wants to get this shark. It's like The Old Man in the Sea by Hemingway, and he ends up cutting off radio communication. He wants to bring off the boat into shallow waters to get the shark, but he never gets there. The boat is submerged in with water as the shark attacks, and he basically fighting for his life against the shark, and he ends up in the water then, and he ends up in the water. We went up then with Roy Schreider then going up to the crow's nest. He goes up to the crow's nest with Robert Shaw's rifle, and he basically, I think he throws one of the yellow tank full of chemicals into the mouth of the shark. And he's up in the crow's nest, and he just shoots the shark from the crow's nest, and then that's it, you son of a bitch, and bang. That was the end of the film. But it's a great thriller, great kind of scenes off the back of his suspense movie, Duel. And it's really well made, really well cast. And I mean, even to this present day, you can see mayors trying to save the summer season on July 4th, to just keep that going ahead instead of public safety, and have economic security instead of public safety. So then, of course, Spielberg went on to make a film called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Great film. Francois Truffaut has a short scenes in the film as well, which is really good. And you have Richard Dreyfuss playing Paul again in the film. And it's a bit of a controversial film because Paul Schrader wrote part of the script and it kind of got disputed. Well, he goes off then and makes a comedy then in 1979. I think it's kind of a war comedy. And he's off then making Indiana Jones. And after that, he's talking about making a story called Night Flies. He was thinking about his childhood and an invisible friend, like when his parents divorced. So he came up with an idea and he got a writer to help him write it. And they went around the studios and they wouldn't get any financiers. So he went back to Universal, his kind of home, like Alfred Hitchcock, and they said they'd finance it. And story of kind of family, loss of family, like the alien and Elliot become friends, and he loses his family. They're kind of botanist aliens, just observing Earth and taking samples. and he gets left alone by his family as the other spaceship heads away. And Elliot is on his own kind of as well, in his own little world with his brother, sister, and mother, and his father's gone. So they have nice kind of touching scenes when he meets him in the garage, or they call it in America the garage. And he throws the ball in, and the ball comes back to him. And there's kind of he lays down sweets for him to come along into the house, and the alien comes along. There's funny kind of touching scenes with Drew Barrymore dressing them up as a kind of a girl with lipstick on, and funny scenes. But it's a nice touching kind of family story, and they're trying to keep the alien away from the government. So there's kind of a suspense, a kind of thriller going like through the story as well. And the older brother gets in as well, and they like hiding him and being friendly with him as well. And he's friendly with the friendly alien. And what happens then? There's a famous scene at the end when the kind of the government agencies are chasing them, and they're cycling on the bike, and of course the alien is kind of covered up with on the front with Elliot, and they fly up into the sky across the moon, which is really beautiful scene. One of the most beautiful scenes you see in a movie, like fantasy scenes, and it's just very well made. And towards the end of the movie, then the alien goes back home. E.T., the extraterrestrial. That was E.T. was kind of first movie I really kind of really saw. I mean, I saw a movie before that called Betty Blue. It's a French movie, but this is the kind of first movie I can really kind of remember kind of the whole lot. And like throughout the 1990s, when I was growing up, like Spielberg was seen as this kind of genius filmmaker. See him all the time wearing his cap as a bearded guy, and like George Lucas, and you had a few of these guys like Francis Coppola as well. They're just entertaining filmmakers. Of course, Spielberg would go on then to make like Academy Award-winning films like Saving Private Ryan and Schindler's List, and he made Jurassic Park as well. And he produced a lot of films as well, and helped a lot of young producers and directors get going. As in like Back to the Future films. See, that's the thing about Spielberg, is that he's an entertainer, but he's also a serious filmmaker as well. But he can give you a great story and great special effects. That was the beauty of Spielberg, and he keeps doing that to his present day with a lot of different films he makes. AI, or The War in the Worlds, or Minority Report. All of these kind of films he made, Bridge of Spies with Tom Hanks. So, I mean, he's an excellent filmmaker, and he'll go down as one of the best filmmakers of all time. And as he said himself, he kind of mixes different genres as well. He wanted to be like Victor Fleming and a few of these early guys. He kind of didn't want to kind of stay in one genre all the time. So there are my reviews for this week on Steven Spielberg's movies, Duel, Jaws, and E.T. Thank you for watching this edition of Mart's Movies Reviews. You can like our channel on Facebook, and check out our YouTube channel where you can subscribe.